In 2015, the Manipur tabled government 3 bills that were directed against the autonomy of the autonomous district councils. Regarding the recommendation of the Manipur HSC for tabling the bill that would grant additional power to ADC in the hill districts. These 3 bills were introduced in an emergency session: the Protection of Manipur People Bill 2015, the Manipur Land Revenue and Land Reform 7th Amendment Bill 2015, and Manipur Shop and Establishment 2nd Amendment Bill 2015, and they were hurriedly passed within 2 days. The protests emerged related to these enactments, which were curbed by the state government, resulted in the death of 9 people from tribal communities, and a protest that lasted for over 600 days. It was only after the intervention of the central government that these 3 laws were recalled. Mr. Purkayas, isn't it ironic that these politicians sow the seeds of discords themselves when the constitution and the law mandates different things? This is research, nothing else.
Yes, yes. See, this mandate is something, and implementation is altogether a different issue. So, in Northeast particularly, you will find the implementation.
Let me be very clear in this conversation. I use this example not in context of the demands. I have used this in context of animosity it generated between the tribal areas and non-tribal areas. It's a context I have given. I am not saying that this led to that.
No, see, if there were proper implementations of what's being mandated in the constitution, there would not have been, at least this development gap between the hills and the valleys. Of course, having said so, there are other constraints in carrying out developments in the hill areas, like topography and all those things are there. But basically, many things which have been mandated in the constitutions are not properly implemented over the years. And then again, we had in earlier discussions also, highlighted how this process of othering this community and that community has been a constant, constant problem in the Northeast. In every state, you will find, this practice of othering communities. And this hypothesis of identity being overshadowed by another community. These kind of things are going on for over the years. These are not something very new development, and that's always keep the Northeast pot boiling. But right now, instead of nitpicking what went wrong, who did this, and whether there are few Meitei cookies still left in the valleys. I recently visited Manipur. There was hardly few. Even the officials, senior officials, cookie officials are taking transfer. They are going out on deputations. But leaving aside all these things, now I think we need to look forward, and all the communities, particularly these two competing communities, should, in a spirit of forgive and forget, should take a step back and try to evaluate things where things gone wrong, and the government, from the government side also. It's not in the past also, Manipur has seen ethnic stripes, and it had showed resilient to fight back from that kind of strife, and only few right steps needed to be taken to, I think, to again rebuild trust, and so that the communities can live happily again. And when I say few steps, firstly, for the short term process, like now there are 40,000 odd central forces presence in Manipur. They need to first secure the international boundary so that there is no cross border terrorism. Then the secure the peripheries, just the the villages in the peripheries, have buffer zone, keep secure these camps of central forces. These are some of the the basic steps which needed to be done. But unfortunately, the state government or the central government has even failed to do these kind of basic things.
Okay. Uh, Beena Lakshmi ji has been waiting. Before I come to you, I'll just go to Dr. Haokip. Dr. Haokip, do you think that the 2015 laws had a bearing on the contemporary animosity which erupted in an unprecedented way?
It might not have a direct bearing on, but there are some kind of a threat to this, because uh, the kind of laws or bills that have been introduced which affected uh, the scheduled areas. For instance, we have known how Aadhaar has been introduced in this country by making some economic provisions in the act itself or the bill itself. Likewise, the three bills that has been opposed to the NIL, in 2015 uh, contain certain, non-necessary financial contents, and that was the purpose. The purpose was to, to not go through the hill area committee, which, according as per the law, there is a mandatory provision that if certain provisions affect the hill areas, it has to necessarily go through the hill sanction or approval of the hill area committee. So in order to bypass the hill area committee, some financial or other contents has been added, and that shielded the bill from going through the procedures which requires sanction or approval by the hill area committee. So this kind of politics or this kind of procedure labs has been going on, and this could only widen the gap or the mistrust between the hill and the valley. So there has to be sincerity in any kind of legislation. There has to be a wide, party-wide or community-wide discussion on any legislation that has to be brought. And I would like to make a quick reaction to my colleague, Professor Bhagat, so that it's not only in Imphal, like Old Ambulan or New Ambulan, that there are still cookies, till today. In More also, the police has taken certain steps to protect the certain Manipuri locality. That could have been done at the beginning of the riot. Srizanpur, Imphal could have been protected, like in 2001, where many of the Naga, residential areas were protected by the police. So that we have been wanting, but what was the, Home Ministry or the Chief Minister doing to protect all these properties? In a capitalist state like India, the duty of the state is to protect the life and property of the people or the citizens. That is the social contract, and it has failed. And what worries most of us is that, after failing so much miserably, why is the
Okay.
head of state still in the position of power? That's we are talking about. So he should have voluntarily resigned himself, and somebody who could put the people together could have been in place
Okay.
in the last 2 months now.
Okay.
So that is my question.
Okay. Beena Lakshmi, do you think the resignation would have worked in such a situation? Because that's the question which has been put by Dr. Haokip. Do resignations work in such situations?
See, all over the world, we have seen if a credible leader has seen a complete deterioration under their administration, that things have failed, they have to take moral and ethical responsibility and have the courage to say, I failed, and let someone else who would be. But let me come back to what I would like to hear. Like you see, in both the communities, warring communities, I'm hearing the word fear, and I've said this in many programs too. Fear mongering has been rampant. Fear that, the Meiteis, their demand of ST would take away the hills, and also the Meiteis fearing that the territorial boundary of Manipur would be sort of ruptured. So you see the fear factor. So I think it's very important for scholars, academics, policymakers, and the government themselves to know that they have to sort of douse the fear which is in both the communities. How do you do that? It's again something which there is a judicial committee formed, there are investigations going on. They must come up very clearly. So what is happening is also not lack of transparency of officials who are involved in different forms, because you know what? When any citizen dies, it is the duty of the state. It is actually when any citizen is murdered, it is between the state and the murderer. We have to remember that the way in which Manipur has deteriorated into this kind, where people are, raiding gun shops and armories and arming themselves because they feel that they have been abandoned by both sides. So that is one thing. Number two, I think we have to immediately stop name calling, stop the xenophobia, stop painting one community as XYZ, which is wrong. This is xenophobia. Xenophobia must be nipped in the bud. It is not right to paint, just like when the Northeast people were called, Chinkies, when Northeast people were attacked in Delhi, we rose up to say that do not do this. We cannot name and call any community and name them that they are all X, Y, Z. This must stop right now. So I think, and most critically, what is important is this mediation. I have a feeling that the country as a whole, 1.3 billion people, have now a complete intellectual bankruptcy to see how can we mediate between two warring communities. Have we lost our intellectual and our ethical, mind to know how can we bring peace? Rather, the conflict which is on the ground has now turned online, in which there have been rampant online attacks, name calling, morphing, distortion of history, which has poisoned our diaspora, it has even reached America, where the communities are protesting in the end. But in all of these, I hear one thing of both the communities crying out for help, asking for peace. How do we bring peace and normalcy in a place where people have been lynched, burned alive? We have a lot of things to do, and that's where I think it's really important to know that this situation in Manipur has to be handled with a lot of care, with a lot of conviction, with a lot of determination and a lot of courage on both sides. And most prominently, the majority community have to have a larger heart